Welcome to your channel. Dark Tales. Before we begin, don't forget to support me by subscribing to the channel, liking the video.
In the early 1970s, a young nursing student named Donna was living with her roommate Angie in a modest apartment in New Haven, Connecticut. Life was simple, calm, and focused on studies, until one seemingly innocent gift changed everything. For her birthday, Donna's mother gave her a soft, hand-stitched Raggedy Ann doll, red yarn hair, button black eyes, and a sweet stitched smile. It looked harmless, even charming. At first, the doll simply sat on Donna's bed like any other. But within days, something felt off. Donna began to notice subtle changes. The doll's arms would move slightly. Its head would tilt. At first, she assumed she was imagining things. But then it got worse. Every time Donna or Angie returned home, the doll was in a different spot on the couch, near the kitchen, once even inside a closed closet. They both swore they hadn't touched it. And there was no sign of a break-in. Then the messages began. Small slips of parchment paper started appearing around the apartment. Each one carried chilling phrases in childish handwriting. Help us. Help Lou. Neither Donna nor Angie owned parchment paper. They had no idea where it was coming from or who was writing it. The atmosphere in the apartment began to shift. The air grew heavy. Shadows seemed to move on their own. Lou, Donna's close friend, began having intense nightmares. In one dream, he woke to see the doll slowly crawling up his leg. In another, it hovered over his chest, eyes dark, whispering things he couldn't understand. One night, he woke up screaming, drenched in sweat. When he looked in the mirror, he found 7 deep scratches on his chest. They burned and then vanished within 2 days. Terrified, the girls contacted a local medium. During a seance, the medium revealed that the doll was inhabited by the spirit of a young girl named Annabelle Higgins, who had supposedly died on the land before the building was constructed. Through the medium, the spirit claimed to be lost and lonely, and asked permission to stay inside the doll. Moved by sympathy, Donna agreed. That's when everything went horribly wrong. The disturbances grew more violent. Objects moved on their own. Loud knocking echoed through the apartment at night. Doors slammed shut. Lou felt he was being watched constantly. One evening, he entered the room and felt a strange pressure behind him. Turning around, he saw nothing, but felt something slash across his back, leaving more claw marks. Desperate, Donna and Angie reached out to 2 of the most well-known paranormal investigators of the time, Ed and Lorraine Warren. When the Warrens arrived, Lorraine, a clairvoyant, took one look at the doll and said, "This is no little girl. It's not human at all. It never was." Ed explained that the doll was never possessed. Instead, it was being used as a conduit by a demonic entity, one that was pretending to be innocent in order to gain trust. The ultimate goal: possess a human soul. And Lou had already become its target. The Warrens performed a series of blessings and containment rituals before taking the doll with them. But even the car ride was dangerous. During the drive, Ed's brakes failed more than once on sharp turns. He had to douse the doll with holy water to stabilize the situation. Eventually, the Warrens locked the doll in a specially made glass case in their occult museum, surrounded by sacred objects. On the front of the case, a sign reads, "Warning, positively do not open." But even there, the terror didn't end. One day, a young man visiting the museum laughed at the doll, tapped on the glass, and mocked it. Ed warned him to be respectful, but the man scoffed. Hours later, as he rode his motorcycle with his girlfriend, he lost control and crashed into a tree. He died instantly. His girlfriend survived, barely, and told police he had been joking about Annabelle seconds before the crash. Today, the real Annabelle, not the porcelain Hollywood version, but the soft, red-haired doll, sits silently in her case. Motionless, but not harmless. To this day, visitors report feeling uneasy in her presence. Cameras malfunction. Lights flicker. And some claim they hear faint giggles when the room is empty. Because evil doesn't always come with sharp teeth or a bloody face. Sometimes, it comes sewn with a smile. It all began in the early 1900s in a grand old house in Key West, Florida. A young boy named Robert Eugene Otto, often called Gene, lived there with his wealthy family. One day, the family's Bahamian servant, a woman rumored to practice voodoo, gifted Gene a hand-sewn doll nearly his size. The doll had black button eyes, a sailor outfit, and a strange, unsettling smile stitched across its face. Gene named the doll Robert, after himself. From the moment Robert arrived, Gene became obsessed with the doll. He spoke to it constantly, played with it for hours, and insisted that the doll had a personality of its own. His parents often overheard him talking in his room, followed by a deep, unfamiliar voice answering back. Soon, strange things started happening around the house. Furniture was knocked over. Objects went missing. Rooms were trashed, yet Gene always said the same thing. "I didn't do it. Robert did." At first, the parents believed it was just imagination. But then neighbors began to report something even more disturbing. They claimed that when the family wasn't home, they would see the doll moving from window to window, peeking out as if watching them. At night, Gene's parents would hear footsteps running across the hallway, but Gene was asleep. When they entered his room, they sometimes found the doll sitting at the edge of the bed, facing the door. Gene would be curled up in terror, whispering, "Robert doesn't like you." Years passed. Gene grew up and became an artist. But when his parents died, he inherited the house and brought Robert back out of the attic, placing him in a chair in the turret room where he painted. Neighbors once again saw the doll at the window, moving, always watching. Visitors claimed to feel nauseous or dizzy when in the same room with Robert. Gene's wife, Anne, hated the doll. She begged him to get rid of it. But he refused. He insisted Robert was alive and needed his space. Their marriage became cold and strange. Some say Anne went mad before her death. Others claim Robert caused it. After Gene died in 1974, the house was sold and the new owners found the doll still there, sitting silently in the attic. The new family had a 10-year-old daughter who took a liking to it, until she began waking up screaming at night, saying, "The doll tried to kill me." Eventually, Robert was donated to the East Martello Museum in Key West, where he still sits today, inside a glass case. But even there, his power persists. Visitors are warned. You must ask permission before taking a photo. If you mock Robert, laugh at him, or disrespect him in any way, he might curse you. The museum receives hundreds of letters every year from people begging Robert for forgiveness. Some lost jobs. Others had accidents. Some even claimed their pets died after insulting the doll. Museum staff say his expression sometimes changes. Cameras freeze. Lights flicker. And some have even seen his hand pressed against the glass. On a quiet, forested island off the coast of Singapore known as Pulau Ubin, hidden between shrines and old trails, lies one of the strangest and most unsettling tales in Southeast Asian horror history, the tale of a Barbie doll, possessed by the spirit of a murdered girl. The story begins in the early 1990s, when a young girl of Thai origin was reportedly living on the island with her parents. According to local legend, she was accused of stealing by a group of soldiers who were stationed nearby. Though she pleaded her innocence, they didn't believe her. Fearing the consequences, the girl ran into the jungle and was never seen alive again. Days later, her body was found in the woods. She had fallen from a cliff, or perhaps was chased, no one really knows. After her death, strange events began to occur in the surrounding area. Locals reported hearing a girl crying in the night, even though no one was there. Animals refused to go near the spot where she died. Some claimed their dreams were haunted by a girl in white with long black hair and empty eyes. Soon after, a Taoist medium from the mainland visited the island, claiming he had a vision. The spirit of the girl had not moved on, she was angry, scared, and alone. Following the spirit's instructions, the medium went to a local store and purchased a Barbie doll, just a normal, modern Barbie. He brought it to the site of the girl's death, dressed it in white clothes, and placed it inside a small shrine. Then something strange happened. The crying stopped. The nightmares faded. And the area grew eerily calm. The spirit, it seemed, had accepted the doll as her new body, her vessel. Since that day, the Barbie doll has remained in the shrine, and is now known as the Poloyuban Barbie. But this is no ordinary toy. Locals treat it with deep respect, even fear. The shrine is visited regularly, and people offer makeup, hairbrushes, sweets, and even perfume to the doll. They say if you disrespect her even unintentionally, you may be cursed. Some visitors who laughed or took pictures without permission claim to fall mysteriously ill, crash their bikes, or suffer misfortune soon after. Others claim that the doll's eyes follow them, or that she smiles subtly at night under the moonlight. The strangest part? Her face seems to age slowly, changing over time, even though no one ever touches her. So if you ever visit Poloyuban and find a lonely little shrine in the forest with a Barbie doll inside, don't laugh. Don't touch. Don't stare too long. Because she's not a toy. She's waiting. In the 1970s, a man named Kerry Walton from Wagga Wagga, Australia, decided to explore an abandoned house in his old hometown. The building was worn down, dusty, and silent, the kind of place where shadows feel alive. As he walked across the creaking wooden floorboards, something strange caught his attention beneath the house. Curious, he pried open a broken floorboard, and what he found would haunt him for the rest of his life. It was a doll, but not just any doll. It was hand-carved from wood, with long, tangled hair, glassy eyes that seemed far too lifelike, and a twisted expression etched into its face. It wore old, tattered clothing, and its head was unusually large. The most unsettling part? It was extremely heavy for a doll, weighing over 20 kilograms, far too much for a child's toy. Kerry, intrigued and admittedly spooked, decided to take the doll home with him. He named it Letta, short for what locals would later call Letta Me Out. No one knew what that meant at the time, but they would soon find out. From the moment Letta entered his home, things began to change. Objects would move on their own. Lights flickered. Doors creaked open at night. The family dog growled and barked viciously at the doll, refusing to go near it. Children who came to visit would burst into tears for no reason, claiming the doll was watching them. Kerry's own children began having terrible nightmares. They would wake up screaming, saying that the doll had been walking around the room at night. One night, Kerry woke to find Letta not where he left it, but sitting at the foot of his bed, facing him directly. Strange events followed him wherever he took the doll. In one instance, while driving with Letta in the back seat, his car suddenly swerved off the road. The steering wheel had locked for a brief moment, causing the car to spin. The mechanic found no faults. When Kerry tried to sell the doll at a market, people refused to come near it. One elderly Romani woman who saw the doll turned pale and whispered something chilling. "This doll is alive, it has a spirit inside." According to her, Letta was made over 200 years ago by a grieving father in Eastern Europe. He carved it in the likeness of his dead son, and during an ancient ritual, something went wrong. The boy's spirit never left. The rumors only grew. People who touched the doll claimed to suffer headaches, nausea, or intense nightmares. Others said that Letta's facial expression would subtly shift, or that its eyes followed them around the room. Some claimed to hear soft crying or whispering sounds when they were alone with the doll. Despite all this, Kerry could never bring himself to destroy or bury Letta. He claimed that whenever he tried to get rid of it, something bad would happen: accidents, sickness, sudden misfortunes. It was as if Letta didn't want to leave. So to this day, Letta the doll still exists. She's kept by Kerry Walton's family, and is occasionally shown on television. More than 100 years ago, a young woman in Texas received an elegant porcelain doll from a friend as a gift. It was beautiful, pale face, glass eyes, and a delicate dress, the kind of doll any woman in that era would treasure. She called it Joliet. The doll sat quietly on a shelf, admired, untouched, until the woman gave birth to her first child, a baby boy. He was healthy, strong, and perfect. But 3 days after his birth, something inexplicable happened. The boy died suddenly, without warning, without illness. Doctors found no cause. It was as if life had simply left him. Heartbroken, the mother clung to the doll. She kept it close, perhaps to hold on to something, anything, that felt connected to her son. Years later, the woman's daughter inherited Joliet. Time passed. She grew up, married, and became a mother. She, too, gave birth to 2 children, a girl and a boy. The girl lived. The boy died. Exactly 3 days after he was born. That's when the family began to suspect that the doll wasn't just a toy, but a curse passed down through generations. This horrifying pattern continued for 4 generations. Each daughter inherited Joliet. Each had 2 children, 1 girl, 1 boy. The girl would live. The boy would die at 3 days old. Always 3 days. Always healthy. Always unexplained. And always, the doll remained. But that wasn't all. As the years passed, the mothers began to report something far more chilling. Every night, from the room where Joliet was kept, the sound of babies crying could be heard. At first, they thought it was just their imagination, echoes of grief. But it grew louder. Clearer. One mother claimed, "I hear not just 1, but 4 babies. 4 distinct cries. I believe those are the souls of our sons trapped inside her." No one ever dared to destroy the doll. Every attempt to get rid of it ended in strange accidents or sickness. One woman tried to lock it away in the attic, and her daughter nearly died from a fall the next day. Another tried to bury it and suffered a heart attack hours later. The family became convinced. Joliet holds the souls of the boys, and maybe something else, something darker. They now keep her sealed in a protective case, away from the nursery, away from mirrors and windows. Still, the crying continues. Visitors to the house have heard it too. Some say they feel a chill when they stand near the doll. Others feel a presence watching them. And as the youngest woman in the family nears childbearing age, she lives with a terrible fear. Will she be next? Will Joliet claim another son? The doll remains silent by day. But every night, as the clock approaches the 3rd hour, the crying returns. 4 souls. 4 generations. And maybe, one day, a 5th. In the quiet town of Canal, British Columbia, a woman walked into the local museum on a cloudy morning in the late 1980s. Her face was pale, her hands trembling, and in her arms, she carried an old porcelain doll wrapped in cloth. She didn't want money. She didn't want to talk. She simply said, "I can't keep her anymore." The doll's name was Mandy. She looked like any antique baby doll, cracked porcelain skin, faded handmade dress, and glassy brown eyes that seemed almost human. But the moment the museum staff unwrapped her, a heavy silence filled the room. It was as if the air itself changed. One of the workers even said later, "It felt like something in the room was watching me, breathing." The woman who donated Mandy explained that ever since the doll had come into her home, her life had become a nightmare. She heard the sound of a baby crying in the middle of the night, always from the basement. But when she went down, the room was empty. Sometimes the crying would turn into gasping or soft laughter. She tried to convince herself it was plumbing or wind until she started finding Mandy in different positions. On the windowsill. Near the door. Lying face down on the hallway floor. Then the glassware began to shatter on its own. Footsteps echoed when no one was home. Lights flickered constantly. Her dog refused to go near the doll. It growled, barked, and sometimes ran from the room completely. Sleep became impossible. The house felt colder. Heavier. More alive. Unable to take any more, she wrapped the doll up and brought her to the museum, hoping that giving Mandy away would end the haunting. But the presence followed the doll. Once in the museum's possession, Mandy was placed in the artifact storage room. But it wasn't long before the staff began to notice strange occurrences. Items stored near her would fall from shelves. Documents would go missing, only to reappear beside Mandy's case. Pens, keys, even a curator's lunch, all misplaced and mysteriously found near the doll. At night, security guards reported hearing tapping on the glass case. Sometimes faint knocking. Sometimes like small fingernails scratching the surface. One janitor even claimed he heard a voice humming softly, a lullaby in a language he couldn't recognize, coming from Mandy's corner of the room. Visitors began to complain. Some said their phones stopped working when they tried to take pictures of her. Others felt dizzy standing near the case. A few even claimed that Mandy's eyes shifted slightly, following them as they moved. The museum eventually placed Mandy in a sealed glass display case, far away from the other dolls. Staff said when she was displayed near other antiques, strange things would happen, like cabinet doors opening, or dolls falling off shelves. One night, the glass surrounding Mandy was found fogged up from the inside, as if someone, or something, had breathed on it all night long. No one knows where Mandy came from, or who made her. Some believe the doll is possessed by the spirit of a child who died tragically. Others think the spirit is not a child at all, but something darker, wearing innocence like a mask. Today, Mandy remains in the museum. Silent. Motionless. But those who stand too close swear they feel something, pull at them. Not with hands, but with presence. With sadness. With hunger. And every so often, long after the lights go out and the museum is empty, someone walking past the building says they hear something from within. A faint, high-pitched sound. Like a baby crying behind the glass. But by the time the doors are unlocked and the lights are turned on, there's only Mandy.